Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and haunts.
Today's story takes us to Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm Sarah.
I'm David.
Let's get into it.
Woo!
So today we're covering a building called the Lincoln Building.
Did Abraham live there? Is this actually his house?
It was not, but it is tied to him.
I see.
Hence the name. And it previously held the Lincoln Room, which was a formal tea room.
Where he had wild parties.
Nope.
Oh, man, I'm really striking out here.
Yeah. And this is located at 28 West Market Street in Westchester. So we've been past this building many, many times.
Oh, okay, I get it now. The Lincoln Room, how the hauntings occurred, he murdered a bunch of people. That's where we're going to get to, right?
This is an unhinged episode. So the Lincoln Building has 4 stories and gets its name because it's allegedly where the first biography of Lincoln was written.
Oh, okay, so Lincoln didn't even visit this place.
Correct. I know you have all these outlandish theories. I'm like, will he be disappointed?
Yeah, I was like ready to go into like, Abraham Lincoln, the vampire slayer, and the whole 9 yards, but
no.
You really just robbed me of that.
Nope, this is just where the author wrote the book.
Okay.
Yeah, sad. But Lincoln credited the biography as a large reason that he was elected president, which I did not know.
I did not realize. So in my mind, this was also after Lincoln had passed.
No, Lincoln was alive.
Oh, okay.
The biography was published February 11th, 1860, and then Lincoln was elected that year.
Cool.
Yeah, which is really cool. I didn't know about this biography. I didn't know that it was written in Westchester. I think that's a really cool piece of history. Westchester should absolutely lean into that more.
Agreed. I mean, there's a lot of famous things that have occurred in Westchester and very close to Westchester.
Yeah, it's so close to Philadelphia that it just has prominence historically due to proximity. So, again, the Lincoln Room used to be a formal tea room that was on the first floor of this building, but now it's the Lincoln Heritage Center. So today, the Lincoln Heritage Center has tons of artifacts that you can see. And of course, a lot of them are tied to Lincoln. But many of them are tied to abolition in general, the Civil War, and then there's also some information on just Chester County history in general.
Is this, like, have we walked past this?
Yeah, many times.
Never noticed it.
Yeah.
In a nice, like, not in a mean way, just probably just walked past without even looking in.
If you've ever been to downtown Westchester, to Market Street, a lot of the buildings, I'd say almost all of them, are beautiful historical buildings. So this wouldn't necessarily stand out. But I think it's really a cool opportunity of a place to visit more in depth.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the brief history of the building. Really, the only claim to fame is that that's where Lincoln's biography was written.
Still pretty cool.
It is very cool. So moving on to the hauntings. Our first ghost story dates back to 1788 and a man named John Tully. You might remember him from a different episode. Do you?
Yes, of course.
To be fair, I'm on all the episodes. And
so I definitely know who this is, but for Erica, can you say it again? For
the listener's sake, I will repeat who John Tully is.
I was like calling out Erica for that, so sure. Yeah, for the listeners.
We don't know that Erica doesn't know who John Tully is.
Right.
So, John Tully was a horse thief in the Westchester area, and he was sentenced to 60 days of jail time, 38 lashes, and to have his ears be cut off. Because apparently, being a horse thief back then was a grave, grave offense.
Interesting. But also the cutting the ears off is a very left field punishment. I don't know if I've heard of that occurring often within like America.
And it's not even just that the ears were cut off. The ears were cut off and hammered into the stocks where he got his lashes. It's a very cruel punishment.
Yep, that definitely sounds up the alley of cruel.
It seems extreme to me.
One would probably also argue that. Yeah, pretty easily. That could be argued. It is an extreme and cruel punishment.
Yeah. But people said that he did this, or he received this punishment, because they wanted to set a standard for the lack of tolerance for thievery in the area. So an example was made of him.
So I immediately just want to know if this occurred more. Was this a one? No, horse thieves, of course, kept occurring, but the punishment of cutting your ears off, having them nailed on the stockade as you get lashes.
Well, no, this was a one-time thing.
So you might say that this was cruel and unusual punishment.
And we'll talk about why. So after his punishments that he received, he groaned so loudly in the jail that he was becoming a nuisance, and other prisoners were complaining, as were guards. Because of this, they actually moved him across the street to present-day 28 West Market Street and let him lay on a cot there to recover. Like, this man, his poor body. I'm not saying you should steal horses, but I'm saying his poor body. 38 lashes and your ears are cut off?
Right. And this may be a dumb question. Did he go deaf from having his ears cut off?
Nobody knew.
Okay.
Because that night, he spent in the cottage, which is the current, like the present day Lincoln building. And his pain overnight turned into delirious laughter. So he was just absolutely losing it. People were actually leaving him alone because they thought he'd gone mad. And, you know, treatment wasn't what it was these days. It's not like he was going to get any mental care. And they had already, I guess, done what they could for him physically. And when they went back in the morning to check on him, he was dead. Turns out you can't lash someone 38 times and cut off their ears. I mean, maybe you can, but in this case, you couldn't.
Well, I assume not without giving them very good medical treatment. Or
right.
Strong medical treatment, something.
Right, and this was ages ago, so there wasn't sanitation like there is today. And I'm sure cauterization to stop the bleeding.
Well, yeah, and I was also going to say there's also just, not that punishment these days.
Well, yeah, that would be, can you imagine?
Yeah, that'd be tough. It was because also, like, there's no public
stockades
anymore. And there's not, aside from, like, an execution, there isn't really anything that's done publicly, right?
No, I don't think so. Because there's not, like, physical punishments that are legally doled out, I don't think.
Right.
That's not to say stuff doesn't happen in prisons. But
of course.
Yeah. No, so this would never happen. So the previous owner of the Lincoln Room, last name John Stone, said, quote, "You hear things. You can still hear laughter and chuckles, and there are people that will not set foot there at night," end quote.
Yeah, so out of the gate, if this is a haunting, potential maniacal suffering, like somebody that was literally broken under their punishment.
Yeah.
It's a tough start.
Yeah, and I completely understand why he would haunt the area. That's a lot of unfinished business, a lot of high emotionality.
Yeah, but so would you say that this is an intelligent haunting?
I don't know, because I don't know that I would say John Tully, in the way that he died, had the capability of an intelligent haunting. I think he's just so beside himself from pain, he couldn't tell what was real and fake. When he was alive, how could he possibly know he's a spirit now?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely thinking it's not an intelligent haunting.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I hope it's not an intelligent haunting.
Me too.
As well.
Or at least that the spirit's not in the pain.
Right.
There have been many paranormal investigations done on this building, which is super cool. I love when historical sites allow stuff like that.
Yeah, and how we not... Kind of crazy that we haven't found this place till now.
I know. The owners say that you can still feel the presence of the ghost and that they hear odd noises. But they aren't alarmed because, quote, "they never haunt our customer," end quote, and they never come out during the day, they said.
Well, see, that makes me think even more it's an unintelligent haunting, right?
Just running on a loop.
Yeah, like running on a loop on repeat.
Yeah, so that is an okay theory, I think, if it's just John Tully. But I wonder if there's any other spirits here, because this is an old building in an old town.
Sure. I mean, there's plenty of room for other spirits.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying like there's only the one and that's it. I'm saying that I think for this particular one, it sounds like it's just on repeat.
Yeah.
On a loop, unintelligent haunting.
Yeah. I'm always skeptical of the ghosts only come out at night claim in general, because I feel that's what like horror movies perpetuate.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hence when we've done our investigations, we've done them at night too, so
not all of them. Like Butler Black Cross I did during the day and stuff. It's just primarily sites allow investigations at night.
Right. It's, that's when their business hours are done.
Right, because they're not being a museum or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine doing that in like broad daylight with people around, just like walking around with an EMF, just like, don't mind me, or just like walking around with a spirit box.
That is
blasting.
Me. Well, not spirit box, but EMF reader. That is me.
Yeah, the EMF, fine. You're right. My example of the spirit box was better because it would be loud, and I, just like imagine me just like being buried into it, and then like walking into people and just be like, oh, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. It's much better to do it in private investigation, anyways.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder, if under the new ownership they would be open to it, because it is more of a museum now. So I think they might be a little more skeptical with all the artifacts and stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, hopefully they'd be open to it, though.
Yeah. So the night-only claims may or may not be true, depending on if it's just John Tully or if there's other spirits there. But visitors across the board have reported feeling as if they're being watched, and an overall strange and odd feeling here. They even report odd noises, which we know is a pet peeve of mine. I hate the general odd noises statement. Tell me what the noise is.
Right. Or, hear voices. Like man, woman, child, old,
right. What
young.
What are they saying? What kind of dialect are they speaking in? Especially somewhere populated like downtown Westchester. Odd noises. That could be something outside in the street. People talking. That could be people walking by.
Right. It could just be, there's a host of explanations for a sound.
Right. That being said, the hearing of the noises and the strange feelings are specific to the first floor. So the upper floors don't have the same hauntings. And Tully was on the first floor.
Sure. So then my first thought would be like, how could you investigate that and like check acoustics for like potential voices being able to bounce or
That's
sounds
true.
being able to bounce? That would be my first thought.
Right. I always bring up those whisper archways where you can stand at one side of an archway, whisper something, and because of the shape of it, the physics of it, the sound will travel. Or like those things at playgrounds.
Yeah.
So I think that's true. You would definitely need to check acoustics. You also would need to think about who's reporting this. If people know the story of Tully, then maybe they're having a strange or odd feeling there just because it's really gruesome what happened.
So you're proposing more of like an experiment of like bringing in people that have no idea versus those who do.
Right. Like if we were to do an investigation with family, for example, tell them nothing and see how they feel.
But they're going to listen to this. So yeah, it's not, that one's not going to work.
Better do the investigation before the episode comes out.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. I think there's just so much that we don't know about this, because you also have to think there's additionally the artifacts there, and sometimes spirits can be tied to artifacts. So there might be additional spirits there that, aren't even noted because Tully is such a big personality.
I agree. So do we have another haunting within this? Is there somebody else? Was this a lead-in?
No.
Were you trying to set me up nicely? Oh.
No, there's no other known hauntings. That's all of the paranormal claims. And, the building has been around for 200 years. Over 200 years. So it's not surprising to me that there are claims of hauntings. But what do you think? Do you think haunted, and would you visit this place of paranormal phenomena?
I would say potentially haunted. And yes, I would visit it. But something I'm also wondering more and more now is because Westchester has so many reported hauntings, and especially hauntings between like buildings and such. How do we start correlating those?
Yeah, I agree with that, because it makes me think of the guardian of the Brandywine battlefield, who is seen in a variety of locations, or transient spirits like in Iron Hill Brewery in Westchester walking to the gallows and the chain noises associated with that. I don't know how you account for that. If the spirits are on a different plane of existence where the layout is so different and their day by day is so different, I don't know how you could account for that. But I think it means there's so much potential for an investigation here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, with a place with this much history, it could be John Tully from the 1700s, or it could even be a previous worker from when it was a tea house, if you were running to encounter a spirit, I mean.
Yeah, or anything in between.
Exactly.
I don't know how sharp the records are about like this building over the years, like outside of like the historical aspects that we spoke of.
Not very. That's why the history section was pretty brief, because we know that the biography was written there. We know that John Tully was there. We know that it used to be a tea room and that now it's the Heritage Center. But there's a lot of blanks left.
Right.
A lot more to be discovered. And I believe this was a listener referral as well. So.
Who was the referrer?
I don't have a name written down, but for some reason I think it was. It could have also been that my dad told me about it, though.
Okay.
Who is a listener, and that does count as a listener referral.
Sure, on technicality.
But if you have anywhere that you want us to cover, you can reach out to us on socials. You can reach out to us on email at paranormalinpennsylvania@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys. We get to find these cool, smaller haunts that have really interesting history behind them, too. So thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Paranormal in Pennsylvania. Tune in next Thursday to see what history and hauntings we discuss next. Stay spooky, my friends.